Welcome, everyone. We are the Uneducated Gamers podcast presented by GalaxyGameTV.com. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about movies. We're going to talk about Mortal Kombat that released a few months ago-ish.
Yeah, when was that? That was like October?
Something like that.
Yeah.
We are going to also discuss an interesting movie called 8-Bit Christmas. And then we will wrap this thing up with Matrix Resurrections with all of our most uneducated thoughts. Joe, welcome in, buddy.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Oh, man. We got some interesting topics today.
Yes, we do.
I mean, there's a little bit of a video game vibe to it, but really we're going to talk about movies, which I think both you and I have a passion for, and I think it's something that certainly we have a lot of uneducated thoughts.
Oh yeah, I got a lot of opinions on stuff.
Yeah, so well, let's go ahead, and we talked about when this was back in March was our last episode that we talked about Mortal Kombat. The movie was coming out. With the trailer just had come out. Right in March,
we were pretty excited about that one.
Yeah. And the trailer looked good. But that to me was probably most of the action.
You know what's cool about the time that we live in right now is that we don't actually need to watch movies anymore. Because trailers just give you literally everything, and for the most part, the trailer, it's more exciting than the movie is.
Yep.
They show you all the cool parts, and when you win the movie, you're like, oh, I remember that from the trailer. Oh, yeah, that's cool. And they kind of sell you a bill of goods as far as movies are concerned these days in a lot of cases, and it's a little it's a little disheartening, especially when it comes to these movies. But it's Mortal Kombat. I'm not expecting something to be Prestige good or Batman trilogy good. It's just Jesus Christ. This was really bad though.
So I really went into it the first time I watched it. Now, I did watch it twice. I watched it again to kind of record this episode because I wanted to make sure that my original takeaways several months back were still very much accurate. And I actually liked it less the second time I watched it.
Yeah. Okay. That doesn't sound wrong.
And, I think there's a couple of things that I feel about this film. One, I think they tried too hard to make it a good film. Let me just give me a minute on that one. Let that simmer for 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
I think they tried too hard. I think the characters, I don't know, it just didn't feel like Mortal Kombat. It felt more like I don't know, what is that?
What are you looking for?
It's a Nicolas Cage movie. Was that National Treasure?
National Treasure? Or any Nicolas Cage movie?
No, National Treasure films.
Okay.
It just seemed very just
low budget and terrible.
Out of place. It was is this actually a movie?
Yeah.
And I feel that they could have made the action a little bit better. I actually thought that the fighting was worse than, say, the first Mortal Kombat ever, in my opinion.
Interesting take on that. Okay.
So, and let me come back to my first point, though, and that's they tried too hard. I think the for instance, in the beginning, the storyline with Kano, they just dragged that shit way too long. The harassing Kano and really trying to find their, what is it?
The Arcana.
Yeah. Like they just dragged that too long. Right.
Well,
like they
I think they knew that they didn't have much going for it. And that dude, I forget who the actor is. He was probably the best part of that movie because he was the actual comedy relief, you know? I mean, like everybody I've talked to that has seen this movie has been like, Kano was the best part. So, and I think the director and the writers knew that. So they just kind of like pushed it out there as much as possible.
Yeah. And that's that again, that drives into the trying too hard thing, right? Because what happens then is it becomes, like you almost you turn everybody upside down, and you have this minor character who is really an antagonist, technically speaking.
Sure.
Be more or less the primary butt of every joke. Who really they just tried way too hard in that part of it.
He was like, when it comes down to it, like he was essentially like, and this might be wrong, but we can edit it out later. He was the viewer as you're going through the movie, because it's like he is, he's all the exposition. He is the one where they show you how people get their powers and yada yada yada, and he is the one that gives Sonya her powers. And just like, it's, the movie is more so, he's more so like the main character throughout the movie, from what I remember, because God damn it, I am not going to watch this movie again. I watched it back when it came out, and I was just like, yeah, I remember all this shit. But like, I remember him being just like the most interesting part, and nobody else in that movie, aside from Sub-Zero, was actually interesting to me, because everything was just so like, it felt like a fighting game where you're just like, I'm going to choose that character because they look cool, and that's about it. And we're just going to go do our fight, and that's it. It just nothing felt fleshed out in like a meaningful way. It was just like, hey, here's why they could shoot lasers out of their eyes, special powers. And here's something we're going to call a birthmark, even though it's clearly a logo. It was just very, it felt like they were trying to grasp for some ideas in the screenwriting room.
Mm-hmm.
And it just did not come together in a way that made any sense whatsoever. Because like, when I got done watching the movie, like they came to like the essentially like the crescendo, like the big action part with, all Netherrealm fighters are coming, and Raiden's in the Earthrealm people are fighting back, and Raiden just teleports them into the Netherrealm, and they're fighting. They're essentially ambushing like Melina and all those other guys. And then the movie just ends. And it's just like, well, hold on a second, what just happened here? Like, it just was not a very clear narrative, like to a certain point. And it just felt very low budget. And all the cool characters like Scorpion and Sub-Zero, it just felt like they weren't fleshed out enough in like a meaningful way to me. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I do think that some of the actors weren't all that great either, right? Like Sonya's character, I think, was really bad.
Yeah, it was fine.
Kung Lao's character, I felt lacked personality. Like he was very monotone. Liu Kang was okay,
sure,
but like even Shang Tsung, right? Like Shang Tsung is a very prolific and powerful sorcerer, right? And
yeah, he's supposed to be somebody you should fear.
And he just fell flat to me. Like I think a lot of the characters just fell flat. Like think about it this way, and I know you haven't played the game, but Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that's what the time travel shit, right?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, like, I actually like, to me, when I'm playing story mode, the fighting isn't to me, that's secondary to what is going on and unfolding as the story.
Yeah.
Like that story from Mortal Kombat 11, like when you get a chance, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Like go to like YouTube or whatever.
It's just like Wikipedia. essentially.
We'll go to YouTube and watch all cutscenes from Mortal Kombat 11.
I've seen a decent amount of those. Like I kind of like know a little bit of the story because it's almost like a rewrite the timeline type of story, right? Yeah. And it seemed interesting. And that's why when they announced this movie after Mortal Kombat 11, I was just like, oh, well, you know what? They could actually do something cool with this.
Right.
You know, because like when, in the original Mortal Kombat and the Annihilation stuff happened. When those two movies came out in the 90s, there was really nothing to go off of as far as lore is concerned with Mortal Kombat. It's like, yeah, you have like a little paragraph being like, who is Baraka? Like, okay, cool. He's like an outworld mutant and all that stuff.
Right.
But like it was never fleshed out in like a meaningful way because they didn't need to. All Mortal Kombat had going for it was just like, hey, we got a lot of fucking blood and we're violent, beyond what parents want us to be. So people love it.
Yeah.
So they didn't need to do anything back then. And they were kind of coasting off that. And then it became more apparent when they started getting to like the 64-bit generation, with Mortal Kombat 4, and they started to like flesh things out a little bit more. And there was a lot of failures before they kind of like found their footing the right way. But, there's some interesting shit.
There's a lot of failures. In fact, I'd love to do a Mortal Kombat episode and talk about and go through the history of Mortal Kombat. But honestly, though, like the second watch through of this film was really disappointing because I was like, I was looking for it and I was trying to be more, I don't know. I was just trying to be more watching it as a movie. And even as a movie outside of Mortal Kombat, it really just did not hit for me. Like it just just felt flat.
It had really terrible editing. Like in all honesty, when me, a layperson, can look at a movie and just be like, what's going on with the editing here? Because like there was a really specific part. I can't really quite remember it right now, but it was when they were in Earth Realm. I think it was right before they fought Reptile in Sonya's hideout.
Mm-hmm.
There was some really weird editing where a character was across the room and the camera the camera switched to, like a close up of Sonya, and they turn around and like the character's right next to her, and it's all within the same sentence. It's not like, oh, they just walked over here while she was talking. It was just like, it was so strange. And there was a bunch of different scenes like that where it's just like, well, hold on a second, what's happening here?
Yeah.
So it was very strange. And, another thing that kind of took me out of it too was just like, I grew up in Indiana, Northwest Indiana, and Sonya's hideout's in Gary, Indiana. And I was just like, what? It was just such a strange thing for me. And it just completely took me out of the entirety of the movie. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, it's supposed to be fantastical and, other realms and dimensions and stuff. And they're just like, hey, we're in Gary, Indiana. We're literally in your backyard. I'm just like, okay, weird. So just a bunch of strange choices. They didn't give Scorpion enough time to do anything besides show up and hiss or have his family murdered. Also, why wouldn't you check on your child after your family is murdered?
Right.
Oh, no, he was dead. That's why he couldn't check on his child. Never mind. Maybe I should have watched it again. It's
so here's the thing too, right? Like, and this is interesting and kind of like looking at some of the different scores. First off, it came out in April 23rd. And
seriously?
Yeah.
Jesus.
And so it's interesting. So on IMDb, it gets 6 out of 10 with 156,000 votes. And the Metascore from 43 critics, it pretty much bombed. It's 44 on the Metascore. And I think it's well warranted. I think the Metascore is better than the user score. I think, or the not user score, but you know what I'm saying, the viewer score.
Yeah, the viewers.
I do think, and there's rumor that they're going to be doing a second one.
They shouldn't.
I was gonna say to your what's your thoughts on a potential second one as we wrap this one up?
Well, I mean, I know that they left room for it in the end,
Yeah.
but it's just, I'm not interested enough to see another one. It's like there's another movie that came out almost like in tandem with this. It's an animated movie it's on HBO Max, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Mortal Kombat, The Legend of Scorpion or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's 1,000 times better than this movie. And it's an animated movie. It's same running time, everything. They give the characters weight. They make the world feel cool, and that it's lived in. And then this one, it just feels like that's another thing. When they started getting to like Outworld,
Mm-hmm.
when they're showing Shang Tsung's, throne, his world and everything, like there's nothing there. Like, I mean, like there's literally nothing there. It's just a fucking horizon, and that's it. And it's just like, what is this? I mean, like if you're trying to fight for something, you're trying to vie for something, like there should be some sort of stakes. And it's just like, it never felt like there was a real threat
right
in this movie at any point. Even when Goro was fighting and all that stuff, it just always felt like we know who's going to win. And that's that, it just, and then there was certain, what was the name of that chick that had wings? Do you know what I'm talking about? That was from Outworld. She's like Batgirl. I can't remember what her name is. She must have been in a game that I didn't play because like she was a completely new character to me. But
I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the character list now.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. They showed her in the beginning and she's just like, I'm gonna, smile at Shang Tsung, and he's just gonna be like, oh, you're so beautiful, I love you, and you're going to fight for me. And then in the middle of like the main fight, I think it was like Kung Lao she was coming after, they just had like these cuts to her and she's clearly on wires and they're just showing her flying around, and it's just like, and she's not doing anything. It's just like, hey, here's 5 seconds of this chick just flying on wires, and it's just like, what is the point of all this? Because you can't tell where she is in space. You can't tell where everybody else is in relationship to her. And all of a sudden, Kung Lao just cuts her in half, and it's just like, this is just terrible editing. I'm not having a good time. Anyway, that's all I have to say about Mortal Kombat. Oh, yeah. Jax's fucking arms. How is that a goddamn power? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
His Arcana was just like, you go get your arms back, Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah.
I was just like, man, there could have been so much cool shit with this movie. It's just, what happens here?
So a couple of saving graces that I have I can say about this film though, and we'll end it here on a good note.
Okay.
In my opinion, they did some interesting things that they've never tried before in a Mortal Kombat movie. And that was to bring Outworld into, say, a modern world, meaning in today's world. So when Goro, went to Earthrealm, it truly felt like Earthrealm, and it truly felt like he was terrorizing people and whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, because he popped out of a shed. I mean, it was just.
I get it, but I think that was a moment that I feel like they actually did okay. Like that was a transition that they've never attempted before in that way to make it feel different. And I think they succeeded on that. And that was one sticking point that I got out of it is some of the Earthrealm stuff. They did a good job making it feel like it's, Earthrealm and not a fictional Earthrealm, if you know what I mean.
Well, I get what you're saying, but I mean, I'm not going to give them credit for something like that because they just had him pop out. He literally popped out of a fucking shack. No, he's just like, you're on my property, and it's like, it's not like a grand scale thing. Like, see, I think what you're saying, would have been fine if it was a grand scale move where it was just like, hey, you're seeing Goro pop out here, but you're also seeing other things happen. Like, so like the first Avengers movie, the Battle of New York, New York is under attack. Things are happening outside of this, of course we're focusing on our characters, but shit's going down. Right.
Right.
In this movie, it's just Goro pops out of a shack, and what's his name? Cole, the Scorpion's ancestor, is just like, I have to fight him now. And that's it. You know, like there's just nothing to it. It's just.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I
mean, I'm not trying to shit on your, opinions of it, but it's one of those things where it's just like, I do not think they deserve this lack for that. Because it's all just very lazy storytelling and just lazy everything, really, to be honest with you.
No, and it is. I guess that it was more or less. I was the one saving grace was they truly attempted something that I don't feel like they've been able to pull off before, and that's to make Earthrealm feel like Earthrealm in a Mortal Kombat movie, and that's
fair. That's fair.
That's primarily what I was going for there.
The saving grace that I saw in it, and one of the only cool things, was Sub-Zero, in my opinion, because, not okay, only because of how they made him fight in here, how they used his movesets, or like how they'd be like, hey, this dude controls temperature. What can we do along with that? Like how he blew up Jax's arms. I was like, cool, awesome. How he made the hailstorm in the beginning, like when they were starting to invade Earthrealm down the middle of the street. And he's literally pelting people with hailstones, and killing them. And like turning the blood into a knife, shit like that. Like that was actually really fucking cool. And I wish they would have fleshed everybody out correctly with stuff like that. But just like none of them were interesting.
Yeah.
Kano's got a laser eye. It's like, okay, whatever.
That's fair.
Yeah. But there was some technically kind of cool stuff there, but it was all in the trailer.
Yeah. No, agreed. Agreed.
Yeah. So all in the trailer.
So to end this out, the budget for this film was an estimated $55 million. Opening weekend, it made $23.3 million.
Mm-hmm.
U.S. gross was $42 million, so it didn't make its budget back in the U.S. Gross. But worldwide, $83 million. So
I'll probably see a sequel.
My guess is it pretty much made its money back with the marketing budget.
Probably. Overseas market do stuff like that. So, I mean, they teased it. They set it up for a second one with spoiler alert. I mean, I guess if anybody gives a shit about that, saying that Johnny Cage was going to come into it. It's just like, okay, cool. I guess. Awesome. I don't know. At the end there, I was just like, this is just not, I'm not excited about it in any way, shape, or form, So I think we can both agree that Mortal Kombat wasn't fantastic. Let's talk about a movie I think we actually both liked. 8-Bit Christmas.
Yeah, 8-Bit Christmas, man. Like 8-Bit Christmas. So let's go ahead and get the stats on this one. This one came out November 24th on Thanksgiving. And I'll be honest, I imagine the marketing budget for this film was pretty crazy. I saw it everywhere on Hulu. It was like,
really?
it was like,
I had no idea what it was until you told me about it. I'm serious. Yeah.
It was pushed out pretty hard. So anyways, I just stumbled. I was like, you know what? It stars Neil Patrick Harris, has Steve Zahn in it. The return of Steve Zahn to film. It's interesting.
The glorious return. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I like Steve Zahn, back when he was like doing things like That Thing You Do and, something like that, whatever. But anyways,
a movie.
Yeah. 8-Bit Christmas, which I think is pretty much a carbon copy, new take of A Christmas Story centered around, Nintendo Entertainment System back when we were growing up, when they came out.
Sure. It's just, you know what? I wonder if my parents felt the same way watching A Christmas Story as I felt watching this one, because this whole thing is just a nostalgia bomb.
Yeah.
In the first place. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Is there a lot of nostalgia movies around these days? Sure. But they've probably been around for a very long time. We just happen to be old enough now to realize it, because now we actually have something to be nostalgic about.
Exactly. And that's why, like, I think this was a perfect one for us to do with 8-Bit Christmas, right? Because I think 8-Bit Christmas is a story of, like when we were growing up, when the Nintendo came out, everybody wanted one, the craze around it, the ridiculousness of, oh my God, video games are taking over the world. And everything to, it's just a fad. It'll go away. All tied up in a bow for a Christmas story, basically a new age Christmas story, which takes place in Chicago, which is even cooler because I'm in Chicago.
Yeah, another Chicagoland movie. Mortal Kombat was an inadvertent Chicagoland movie.
Exactly. And honestly, comparative to all these other Christmas movies that come out, like Hallmark movies, Lifetime movies, all Netflix, all these like Christmassy movies, it just didn't feel like those.
No, it didn't. And actually, like, I had a very hard time trying to sit down and watch this one because I don't really like Christmas that much. Nothing against the holiday or whatever. I just find it kind of exhausting. And, we had just gotten done with all the Christmas stuff with the family and gotten back after a snowstorm, and I had to watch it. And I was sitting there talking to my wife. I was like, okay, baby, it's like 90 minutes long. If this sucks, we could turn it off and I can just fake it. And then we started watching it. And with like the first 5 minutes, we're both like just kind of giggling along with it. And I was like, oh, that's not so bad. And then it just kind of kept on getting better and better and better. Like, it was very strange. It was a pretty slick script. The child actors weren't jarring. It all kind of came together in like a really, really good little cute, fun, nostalgic package. Because like you are of the age of somebody that was around when like, oh, Nintendo is released. Like, we need to get this system. I'm a little bit younger than you. I was just a little too young for the release of Nintendo, but I definitely remember fucking wanting one when I became aware of what they were. And thankfully at that point, my parents were just like, okay, sure, whatever, have a good time. But, that whole idea of just that all consuming, this is what I want, and I will do anything to get it, that a kid gets. Just, I felt that whole goddamn movie. Like, it's like, yeah, I remember wanting an N64. Oh my God, I remember trying to work for that thing. Oh, I remember I only had a controller and I didn't have the system or Star Fox or anything. Like, I had no games. And I still remember like laying on my bed, just like with the N64 controller, closing my eyes and acting like I was playing Star Fox at like the N64 console in like Walmart. I was a kid. You're like, I'll have it in a week. Oh my God.
or you can wait for the Toys R Us sale, like the ad that I sent you a couple days ago.
I still think that's so fake. I don't know, man.
Super Nintendo games, $250 each. Get them now.
So I remember when like Blockbuster was closing doors like in our area, and they had like all their Super Nintendo games like for basically free, and they got there and it's like, oh, I'm going to get Illusion of Gaia. Finally open up the box. It's got Godzilla in there. I was like, damn it, Blockbuster.
But, here's the thing, right? Like 8-Bit Christmas, we're now talking about anything Nintendo that we can think of growing up as a kid. And that's the interesting thing about this particular film. I didn't find it, even though it's a Christmas film, I found it more nostalgic to our era, right?
Yeah, it felt more like the time rather than the holiday.
Yeah. They did a great job at making it a period film, right?
I agree.
All the way down to, like Macy's and what have you. Like, they really did, even though the building they were in wasn't Macy's, it doesn't matter. Like, I know that, but most of the people in the world don't know.
Well, and they got the Jewel Osco bags.
Yep. Yeah.
I haven't seen one of those since I moved away from the Midwest. Like, holy hell, I forgot Jewel was a thing. There's a lot of small attention to detail about like the area, which I think is probably going to hit us a little harder because like we literally grew up there.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of strange to see all those small things. Like, the thing that really got me was when he was in class just the main character, what was his name, Jake. He was in school and his teacher started giving him shit about not having boots or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And she was just like, do you want me to put your name on the chalkboard and you'll get a check by your name? And like, I totally 100% forgot that was a thing as a kid. And as soon as she said that, I was just like, oh no, that's like the worst thing that could happen to you as a kid.
But you know what though? Like, to that end, like, you bring up another good point, right? Like, you know, we watch that with our kids, right? And there's certain things like what you just said, the you know, check mark by your name on the chalkboard, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's not a thing anymore. Like, chalkboards are not even a thing that much anymore in schools, right? And so they wouldn't get that. Not really, no.
Well, I don't have kids. I don't know.
But some schools do, but like, you know, like his elementary school, they don't have chalkboards there. But they have those like it's
like those projector, and you just kind of like weird.
So but I think this film did a lot because it not only created something or created a story that was relatable to our generation and our era, like, you know, within 15 years, really. Like, I would say anybody from 35 to 45 potentially would be able to 35 to 45 could easily relate to this film, and you can even almost get as close to 50 almost. And so, but then you have the younger generation that it, you know, I think what this film sort of borrowed from was like things like Sandlot, right? Like,
I would agree.
Or things like Bad News Bears, right? Like, and then obviously things like The Christmas Story, and really made it relatable and transcendable down to my kids' age, right? 7 and 5, and which I thought was great, which also drew me in as a parent to be like, I want to watch this with my kids because I think it's kind of cool. You know, they think about Nintendo, like they see the Nintendo I have on the shelf, and you know, they don't know anything about the history of us getting a Nintendo, what it actually meant when you had a Nintendo back then, right? Like,
it was a big deal.
It was a huge deal.
You had your friends that had all the video games that, like, I had a group of friends when I was younger. They were twins, and they lived on my block and everything. And like, I remember liking them, but I also remember like wanting to go hang out with them because they had a Nintendo, and they had a Super Nintendo and a Genesis. And like, they just had fucking everything because their parents, I don't know, their parents were well-to-do, and they just kind of did whatever. They're nice people and all that stuff. But it was just like, I think about that as an adult, and it's like, did I like them as people, or did I like them because of their games? You know, and like the kids. So one of the plot points of the movie is like the main character kids, like there's a group of them. You know, it's kind of like like an Ocean's 11 type of heist film almost at a certain point. But it's a group of like 6, elementary school kids. And there's this one rich kid who's got like the best basement, in the community. And he's got a Nintendo and is the only one. And they're all just vying to get into his basement in order to play Nintendo. They hate this kid. They don't want to actually be friends with him, but they just want to use him for this stuff. And I mean, it just leads to some of the best part. Dude, how'd you feel about the part with the power glove? Because he had his hand hit, like I knew he was going to pull out the power glove. And my wife was sitting there, and she doesn't really know what that is, I don't think, because she had no reaction to it whatsoever. And I was just like, oh my God, the power glove sucked so bad. I hope that they do something about that, because he's so excited for it. And I hope they show how disappointing it is. And like the next scene, how disappointing was the power glove?
Yep. Yeah, it was great. It was great. Yeah.
I was just like, that's perfect.
Which I think, also, in my opinion, leads to one of the funniest moments of the movie. And I'm not talking about the cat getting killed or getting hurt by the
dog.
Or dog, yeah, dog getting hurt by the TV. Mm-hmm. But him, like, literally, like Liu Kang fly kicking at the TV,
right? Because he got so mad because the kids got 8. Okay, so basically the power glove sucks, and he's losing a fighting game. Which was that actually a Nintendo game that they were playing?
Think so. I don't think so.
It looked like it was made up for the movie, which was kind of disappointing. In all honesty, if I had a critique on it, it's small stuff like that where it's just like, just pull out like Double Dragon or something.
Well, probably licensing.
I maybe. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I'm not really into the movie world, so
you got to remember too, like Nintendo games are licensed and they can't.
Nintendo's an asshole about shit.
Well, yeah, and so but they don't always renew their license
That's true.
on games. So like they're licensed with the creator of the game. If their license runs out, they're not allowed to redo it. That's why you don't see a lot of like it takes a while for some of those games to come out because they have to go through licensing again in order to put it on the Switch.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's like one of the reasons why the Friday the 13th game just went nowhere, because they couldn't. All of a sudden, people are like, "Hold on a second, I own this," and somebody else is like, "No, I actually own this." And guess what? You guys can't do this anymore.
Yep, exactly.
No, and I get it. It's just, in a perfect world, it would have been cool to like actually see a Nintendo game.
Absolutely,
there,
absolutely.
But I mean, it was perfect. So anyway, this kid loses terribly because he couldn't get the power glove to work, and he would probably be beaten anyway because he looked like a little bitch. Not the actor, the the character.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, and it's just the cut that they did with him like on wires flying across the entire basement in order to kick the TV. It's like, you can imagine that as a kid, it's just, it's just fun. It was fun in a way where it was just like the whole time I was just like, wow, I just had a great time watching this, Dude, what did you think about the part where they go to the Macy's? And the main character kid, Jake, he sits there and he's supposed to be watching his sister.
Oh, yes.
The Cabbage Patch aisle. And and then Nintendo starts talking
to him.
He starts taunting him. That could have been so stupid. Like that could have been like kind of cringy, but like they pulled it off.
Well, I think hilarious. I think what pulled it off was the fact is they weren't trying to pull it off as something like realistic. They were trying to be tongue in cheek and silly about it in a child's mind of what it would look like a warped sense of like sensibility. And it worked. I think it worked.
Yeah. I was like, forget about your sister, Jake. You're winning. You're the best.
And then to end that with the chase for the retainer, dude, like some of these,
oh my God,
some of these are just, I mean, it wasn't anything outstanding. Like the movie wasn't earth shattering or
no, it's a story we've seen before.
Yeah. But it kind of took the typical formula of a Christmas movie, the typical formula of a Christmas holiday / family movie. And it really, it turned it a little sideways and made it more like a film that would appeal to a lot of audiences. And I think that's what, I think that's
the appeal of it. Yeah. I think it was pretty fantastic, because Neil Patrick Harris, I mean, he's just, I just like Neil Patrick Harris.
I'd marry the guy if he'd have me.
I'd suck his dick. But I mean, like he was essentially playing Barney Stinson, but like a mature version of Barney Stinson. Yeah. Especially when he started off. And it was just like, I don't know, the narration was good. Everything just felt right in the movie.
Yep.
It's very strange. I have not had like a legitimately enjoyable movie experience for a while. They're very few and far between. I'd say like Dune is a bright point and this movie is a good point too. But man, I'll tell you what, for as much as nostalgia this movie has and all that, and just well-written script, I fucking cried at the end.
Oh, when Steve, when we find out Steve's on Jake's dad, died. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I shed a little tears too at the end of that.
I mean, they were doing the whole thing with so basically throughout, this is all spoilers. So if you're still listening this far, then you've made your own mistake. But I mean, throughout the movie, Steve's on the dad is, he's always building stuff. He's like constantly remodeling the house. He's always got shit going. He's always got a tool belt on. He's doing his thing. It's like, what is his profession? We don't know. All we know is he's good with tools and he's always doing something. Which is kind of like, how a kid would look at his dad, where it's just like, I don't quite know what you do. All I know is what I see.
And honestly, it captures really the era because there was a lot of do-it-yourselfers in that time period. And there still is. But what I mean by that is that was like a huge do-it-yourself era. I lived
for
it.
sure. Oh yeah. No, I remember it. My dad never picked up on that, but I definitely remember watching like This Old House all the time, as a kid, because my parents were just always had it on in the background. And I'm just like, cool, I'm never going to do any of this stuff. Now that I'm a homeowner, I'm just like, I'm just going to buy new construction so I don't have to do any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, like the way that Jake, the main character kid, is like looking at his dad through his own eyes. And he surprises him at the end with like this really cool fucking tree fort that I don't think would ever work as far as the Midwest is concerned with the wind and everything. But it's just like this dream house type of thing where it's just like, hey, you don't need a Nintendo. You're gonna get one eventually. Time goes by, shit happens. You're probably gonna get one, but like right now, here's what's important in your life, and here's something that I can give you as a father that nobody else can just give you, and that just fucking killed me. And I called it at the end. I was just like, oh man, as an adult, he's at his parents' house and like the dad's not going to be there. And my wife's just like, no, he's alive. I'm like, no, he's just not going to be there. He's going to be dead. And then like, as soon as they showed like his favorite cup sitting at the table with an empty seat, I was just like, oh God, oh my God. She's like, are you crying? I'm like, no, not at all.
I mean, the worst part about it is we all know it. You watch the movie, it's happening. Know it's happening. Like we all know this formula, and yet it still gets us at the end.
Mm-hmm. It's just like I saw it coming, and I was just like, because it's just not one of those like sad movies. It's just like, I kind of view my dad like the same way that kid viewed his dad when he was younger, where it's just like, yeah, I love you, and you're doing stuff for me, but it's just like, you don't quite understand it until it's just like one big grand gesture and you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have come across this movie if I didn't tell you about it. Sure. We were kind of teeing this up when you talk about the ratings. So on IMDb, gets 6.7 out of 10. Only 13,000 reviews. Mm-hmm. The Metascore gets a 66. Again, everyone's citing that, it's nothing outstanding. It's nothing earth shattering. It's another, but, again, same things that we said, another Christmas Story. Basically, if Christmas Story and the Wizard had a baby.
Yeah, kind of.
But honestly, I mean, I think this goes down as a classic, even though this year, a lot of people likely didn't see it because I just feel like it released on HBO kind of quietly. Now I got marketed it, but I think this thing could potentially become a cult classic for years to come.
I agree. You know what? And you know what's kind of telling on that? Because like my wife and we're not. I like the movies that I like. I don't really seek out other things. I'm just like, sometimes I find some little gems, and we enjoy sitting down every once in a while and watching movies, but we usually just watch a movie once and we move on. Yeah. It's just like, cool, awesome. Don't need to see that again. Do some other stuff. After we got done watching this movie, my wife was just like, we should watch this every year. Like no joke. Like I was like, yeah. And you know what? I was just like, what? We should, because this is one of those movies that is just fun. In a non-annoying way. It's just good to have on, just like the Christmas Story, which is like, there's a reason why they, you can have the Christmas Story on a 24-hour marathon, just repeating after itself. And it's still like innocuous. And like, you just turn it on at any point and still have a good time, And I think this is definitely an exception to a lot of movies out there, especially holiday movies, where it's just like, yeah, you know what? I could actually see myself watching this every year and not being like, oh, you know what I mean?
Not again.
Right. Where it's just like, this is just fun. It's just such a few and far between, experience as far as movies are concerned,
I agree. And, I hope, hopefully, they try to, release it, like on Blu-ray and DVD and kind of push it out in the next holiday season, because I think again, for a lot of the age group that represents this era is pretty big. And I imagine if I posted this on Facebook on anyone, like my friends from high school, and they saw this, I would almost bet it's less than 10% saw this.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean, like, I honestly had no idea this was even a thing. And we're on HBO a lot, just like, plinking around doing stuff. And like, I see Christmas movie and I automatically pass it over.
Sure.
In all honesty, like, it's just one of those things where it's like, I just don't like Christmas movies in general. Yeah. So, I mean, like, the only Christmas movie we consistently watch is The Santa Claus, because my wife's parents love it. It's like their Christmas tradition or Thanksgiving tradition to watch the Santa Claus. So I don't know. It would have totally flown under my radar. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I'm glad I'm not the only one that felt the nostalgia for this. And I'm also quite glad that I introduced you something that you liked.
Yeah, it's about time.
But talking about something that you were trying to watch this movie, 8-Bit Christmas, and you didn't get the opportunity the first time you tried to watch it, right?
Yeah.
Because you were watching the movie that we're going to talk about next.
Yeah. The Matrix.
And that's The Matrix Resurrections.
Yep.
And
a movie so bad I watched it twice.
I watched it twice too. I had to, because I was in disbelief of what I watched the first time.
Sure, I could see how that would happen very easily.
And so then I watched it again to make sure that I have the right feelings about that movie.
Okay.
And I've changed my opinion slightly, but not a lot.
Okay.
But I'm going to go ahead and let you start, because
fuck.
I think you have a very strong opinion about Matrix Resurrections.
I mean, yes, I have an opinion about it. It's a strange movie, and I'm not even sure it needed to be made in the first place. And like I said, I watched it twice. First time around, watched it with my wife twice. We got to the end, and the end credits music came on, and like the look on my face, I swear to God, you guys can't see this, but Chris can. I was just like that's the face I made. It was like a sad face. Just being like,
you kind of look constipated.
Yeah, a little bit, where I was just like, oh God. And then the music came on and I was just like, Jesus Christ. Like, it was just, anyway, I've said a lot without saying anything. It was a story that didn't need to be told, but there are elements of it that I thought were interesting, but I don't think this should have been a movie. I think this should have been a TV series. Where are you at on that?
That's interesting. So I kind of think about, so before I go where I'm about to go, I kind of feel like how I felt with the Animatrix was.
Really? Okay, how so? You're gonna have to explain that one to me, because I'm not making a connection there.
So I think it's a bunch of information put together that's supposed to mean something, but in the end, it just ends up falling a little short on its purpose. I didn't truly like the Animatrix. Like, I felt that it didn't really have a purpose or a need. It told several stories. It told several endpoints and endpoints, but it never really resulted in anything meaningful. And I think Matrix Resurrections has a very similar feel to its approach to the story.
I don't quite agree with that, because here's the thing. Going into the Animatrix, you're not expecting a continuation of the story of the Matrix. You know, especially back in the day, like I remember when the Animatrix came out, it was like 2002 or 3-ish. And I remember going into it, understanding it's like, you are not going to see Neo. You are not going to see any of this stuff. These are all just kind of side stories to the Matrix in general. You know, there was only really one story that actually fit into the trilogy, where it was just like how Zion knew that, you know, the machines were coming after them, you know, were like planning their big attack and whatever. And like how that information came to them. It's almost like, you know, like how in like Return of the Jedi, they're just like, many Bothan spies died to give us this information about like the Death Star 2. It's just, it's like that kind of like, you know, like offhanded remark. And then they're just like, oh, we can just make a story out of this real quick. But I mean, like, for the most part though, all the little features in that were really good self-contained little stories, you know, that had something to do with the Matrix in general. And what was it, the New Renaissance or something like that? The one where they actually, it's like the 2-part series where they show like, hey, this is, what's it called?
It's the Second Renaissance.
Second Renaissance. That's it. Thank you. Where they show like, you know, the story of the war from the machine's perspective, it seemed like. I thought that was so fucking cool. And I'm like, I even think about that randomly, you know, without any, having like any ties to the Matrix or anything like that. I'm just like, that was just like a really well done story, and like was long enough to give you a piece of like what that world is like, you know, without being a feature film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like the movie, the Resurrections movie, sorry, I'm finish up my tangent here in just a sec. The Resurrections movie, I was expecting it to be a continuation of the Neo story. So that's where I just don't see where where those two kind of like merge together like the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, see, I think that's where we kind of went into the movie thinking two different things, right?
Okay.
So I did not think of this as a continuation of the Neo story. I saw this as there's a new side of the Matrix that Neo hasn't been a part of for many, many years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked at Resurrections as the sort of the last bricks on the bridge, the Neo bridge of all of the Matrix lore, right? Okay. And like this movie, like Neo didn't have to be in this movie, right? He shouldn't have been in this movie. However,
none of them should have.
Well, yeah, but I think if you take out Neo and Trinity, right, but I even think Morpheus is fine. Because Morpheus is a different Morpheus.
Sure. Yes, he is.
And I think if you take everything out Neo, you take everything out Trinity, and what you're left with is a short film that is a world that lives without Neo, right? Sure. And so like I went into this thinking that this is Neo's end, right? This is Neo's swan song. You know, they didn't get a chance to in Matrix, I think, what was it? Revolutions, that they just didn't have, they just didn't end it the way that, you know, I don't think that story ended. And that's why I think to your anticipation to audiences, this was a Neo like centered feature. But I think overall, this doesn't, that Neo is just something to entice people. It wasn't really the expectation, in my opinion, of this film, in my eyes.
Well, how was Revolutions not the end of Neo's story? I mean, Trinity dies. He sacrifices himself, you know, to end the war. He ends up dying and taking out Smith and resetting the Matrix in a way, and in a way that makes sense, and creates a peace with the machine society. I mean, it's just like, like that story is done. You know, like, you know, critical response and fan response back in the day was just like, okay, whatever, but it's done. You know, it felt like, you know, you watched him die. Well, I mean, like, you technically may not have watched him die, but I mean, you definitely watched Trinity die for an hour, because that scene lasted that I remember as a kid watching that, and then like every single time you'd expect her to be like, hear her like give her death rattle breath. You'd be like, ah. She'd be like, but I love you, and you need to keep going. Don't forget about, okay, just fucking die. Like,
well, okay. So what I mean by that though is you knew at the end of that there was something else that was going to happen. Like I felt like there was going to be another one, and
I didn't think so. I did not get that feeling.
And what was weird about it is it just never happened, right? I mean, that movie came out in 2003, so we're talking. This is almost like 18 years ago.
Yeah.
I guess where I'm going with this and saying that I have a different view of the movie, even though I still don't think it was great. I felt like there could have been a good movie in here. I really wanted a little bit more, but we clearly didn't get it. What's interesting though, let's really quick, let's wrap this up with kind of the opening weekend of this film.
Ooh, not great.
So we talked about Mortal Kombat earlier. Opening weekend was 27 million, right?
Yeah.
Opening weekend of Matrix Resurrections was 12 million.
Ew, I blame HBO for that. Honestly. Well, and Omicron.
Gross, US gross overall, 27 million.
That's not great. I don't think people wanted another Matrix movie.
So Mortal Kombat topped Matrix Revolutions in numbers.
Yeah, that's not fantastic, I gotta say.
And the worldwide gross was 71 million.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you think they're gonna make another one?
So with Lena Wachowski at the helm of this was her first one of the Matrix series.
Wait, what did you say her name was?
However you pronounce their last name. I thought it's Wachowski, isn't it? Isn't that how you say that?
Now I don't even remember how to say it.
Wachowski. Lena Wachowski.
The Wachowski brothers.
Yeah.
Sisters.
So this was her first one. Look, I think they potentially learned a lot here. I think potentially there could be another one at some point that hopefully tells a better story. I think the abysmal showing that it had in the US doesn't bode well.
No.
I think the Metascore at 64, meaning the critic score of 64, and then the viewer score of 5.8 out of 10. And this is 115,000 reviews from the viewer score.
Yeah, it's polarizing.
Clearly, people like us didn't like it very well. Right?
True.
So I think overall they will attempt another one, but if that one doesn't go well, I think The Matrix is dead after that.
I hope so. In all honesty. I mean, I just don't. They didn't set themselves up well. I mean, this really smacks of like the Force Awakens, at the end, because it's basically the exact same movie as the first one in the series, and then they try to end it on something where it's just like, now let's go do something else. And it's just like, that was okay with Star Wars the first time, and we're obviously bamboozled with that. But with this one, it's just like, yeah, I'm older and I've got a little bit more experience, and I'm just not down for something like that. I'm not going to get my hopes up, and I'm probably not going to follow this anymore,
Yeah, I think ultimately the last thing that I'll basically say about this is I think that I was excited to know that they were going to do another Matrix. I was disappointed that what they gave us was basically a rehash of the first film with different
Yeah.
let's just say a different twist, so to speak.
Sure.
And I was severely upset that they didn't really take the time to develop the story they were trying to sell. And that's ultimately, in a nutshell, is how and why I think this failed.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. You know what would be cool though, dude? Like I said at the beginning, having a Matrix not as a movie, but as like a TV show. And then you know what would be awesome though? Is if you have no fucking idea that you're watching a Matrix show. You know, like you can't, like there's no way that this will ever happen, and there's no way that you could even pull this off in the first place. But like I would love to be watching a show that just like gets you right from the beginning. And then like if you're paying attention, there's maybe like small hints, you know, where you're just like, hold on a second, you know, like, did that just happen or, you know, whatnot. And then you get to like the season finale and you're just like, and you get unplugged from the Matrix and you're just like, holy fuck, this was a Matrix show. That's what the Matrix should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the problem is I don't think that the Wachowski, whatever
The
how you say this, I don't think they can ever you know, give up reins to the Matrix. I think they hold on to that too tightly. I think there's a reason why nobody has written or created one outside of their family.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I'm just saying, in a perfect world, what that would be cool.
I would agree with you.
Know,
I think it would be cool. Unfortunately, I think there's the sad part of this that it won't happen.
Oh yeah, no, it'll never happen. It's just something that's just never going to happen. But I don't know. I think that the magic of the Matrix was the first movie, and then the second and third, you know, was diminishing returns, but still okay. And then this one is just like, there's just nothing left. You know, it's just all these things have been done, and they're just not willing to innovate as far as the story is concerned. And that is just a real shame, because there's so much you can do with this.
Yep.
Real missed opportunity.
I agree.
Thanks for listening to our most recent episode of Uneducated Gamers. You can go to Galaxy Game TV to post comments on each of our episodes, or if you have a question or a topic you would like us to include in an episode, feel free to leave a comment. Until next week, we bid you farewell.